Hi, this is the Philosophical Angle program, and I'm your host, Chris Angle. I'm the author of 4 books on philosophy, and one of which is Defining Ethics, Good and Evil. The purpose of the Philosophical Angle is to examine the nature of concepts being used in current media. And this week, we're going to talk about something that's constantly in the news, being terms that are constantly being offered by whatever media you're watching, and it's they talk about the left and the right, and conservative and progressive, Democrat and Republican. So what is the difference between these two political sides? Well, if you go back throughout history, you really come up with just 2 sides to all political parties. They originate with the haves and the have-nots, right from the kings and queens and their nobles, who are the haves, and the workers, the serfs, the proletariats, the slaves. That's the other political class. And these workers, the serfs, the proletariats, the slaves, they seek nothing else but the first dictum of life, which has 5 corollaries. And so the first dictum of life is all life seeks that which is good for it, and continually seeks that which is good for it. And so this goodness is equals, this seeking of goodness is equal to freedom plus motivation plus cooperation plus competition, which includes the law of convergence and divergence, and we'll talk about this in a little bit. So when these individuals of society strive for goodness, they're at peace because they are fulfilling their objective. And these individuals seek the first dictum of life and economics, which we just mentioned, is that all life seeks that which is good for it, and continually seeks that which is good for it. And these individuals, of course, the slaves, the serfs, the proletariats, they seek first and foremost fairness and equality before the laws of society, so that they may strive equally for betterment in their lives. And in America, the amendments 4, 5, 9, and 10 help with that continuing to seek the first dictum of life, and which notes that we can seek that which is for life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And the amendments 14th, 15th, and 19th, they help us strive equally in our society. So additionally, common man seeks equality before the law in pursuing the first dictum of life, which is to say that striving for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is the essence of being a conservative and being on the right side of the political spectrum. Let's go over to the left and see what we discover there. They are the haves. The Democrats, the progressives, they originate from the haves, the kings, the queens, the nobles, and their associates, which is a cadre of facilitators. And in modern day democracies, for example, the nobles and their associates are replaced by the government bureaucrats, corporate management, which are needed to control the have-nots. The corporate managers provide the taxes, also known as tribute, to be paid to the facilitators, the kings, the queens, the nobles, which are the haves. And by the way, control is anti-cooperation. That's the meaning of, that's the nature of control. And the haves can be controlling because they believe that the nature of the serfs is that they are inherently bad, that they're inherently bad people. Some of the left believe that the have-nots are bad because they are just not of the social class of the haves. And there are those of the left that are born this way, believing that people are inherently bad. And these facilitators and control the have-nots. And they control the have-nots through motivation and through negative knowledge plus force. And examples of negative knowledge are the rules and regulations and laws passed by the government. An example of motivation is by giving welfare funds to the have-nots in exchange for their votes and loyalty. And the haves will think that they are providing and should provide a social network for the have-nots, and thus is born the concept of noblesse oblige. And for example, societies of the communists, fascists, socialists, and the kings and queens and their royalty. And because of four principles, this control of the have-nots will tend to get worse and more oppressive over time. And these four principles are the dictum 1 that we mentioned above, the law for the demand for the good, the Lord Acton principle, which is that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, and the St. Augustine principle of libido dominandi, the will to dominate. And lastly, the have-nots are the belief that the have-nots are inherently not good. And to know whether this is true or not, all you have to do is look at history, see how kings have treated the common man. And so because these four principles are in place in society, this control of the have-nots will tend to get worse and more oppressive over time, but there are some who do not submit to the control and do not want to continue in serfdom and in slavery and be the worker bees of society. And it will be thought and considered by the haves that these non-cooperative serfs, these non-cooperative proletariats, slaves, and other have-nots that adhere to the individual rights are basically bad people, that in their nature is inherently bad. Their nature is inherently bad, and these are the thoughts of the haves. Therefore, there is no respect for the individual rights of these have-nots, whether they are the conformist or the non-conformist. In the eyes of the haves, the have-nots are inherently bad people and need to be controlled. And the have-nots use negative knowledge plus force to control the haves control the negative, the have-nots by the use of negative knowledge plus force. And this necessary control of the have-nots means that there will be economic and equal social justice of the have-nots, whereby everybody stays where they are in society, whereby everybody is equal in every way. And because they are bad, there is no empathy for the advocate of individual rights. And we see this. You can see this by candidates on the left, as they call them, as the have-nots, the deplorables. I think we've heard that word before. And this is caste socialism and caste fascism, really the one and the same thing. And this is commensurate with the history of the Democratic Party going all the way back to President Andrew Jackson, which finds its origins in the kings and queens and royalty of old, as the haves. But there's a problem with this for the left, in their belief. The problem is that the first dictum of life gets in the way. Life doesn't want to be controlled because life seeks that which is good for it, and continually seeks that which is good for it, the first dictum. And life wants to pursue goodness for itself, its offspring, and to a lesser degree society, for those with whom the individuals compete. Cooperate. And life seeks goodness by making sacrifices to receive rewards. And you can make an actual little equation out of this. You can say that a sacrifice equals the reward. We sacrifice our risk. We sacrifice our time and energy, which is really force, and we use our information and knowledge, and we do that to produce a betterment for and improvements by increasing its components, these at risk and information and knowledge and time and energy. And if it's a product, we will add in material, and within this constituent variables, most of the improvements come through the information knowledge variable, which improves the sacrifice and thereby improves the reward. So it's difficult to improve the time you spend, because probably you're spending all the time that you can and all the energy you can, but the information knowledge port is really unlimited. And therefore, as knowledge improves, so does life, and the differentiation of the creativity of the new products and services that it produces. But the leftist, they tend to suppress the accumulation of knowledge by its production of anti-knowledge, and they must suppress this accumulation of knowledge, and they do this because as knowledge accumulates, the have-nots become the haves. The have-nots begin to become part of the nouveau riche class. The have-nots will become conservatives because in production of the rewards, cooperation is needed. And as a result, cooperation increases belief and trust in the goodness of others. And by the way, cooperation equals knowledge of the efficiency of the new combined sacrifice with other people. And so cooperation is possible by the effusion of respect, and the appropriate dispensation of respect is the essence of ethics. And we respect others in order to cooperate. And we cooperate in order to produce goods and services, which brings us up away from misery, which is the nature of all that is good. Therefore, this increasing amount of cooperation produces greater goodness in the conservative base. And an example of this is the South switching over to being Republican in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. As they became more prosperous, they switched sides. However, the Democratic Party does not grow naturally when knowledge is being increased in society. Therefore, it searches for new sources of voters with lesser degrees of accumulated knowledge, which will make them susceptible to a system of creating caste socialism and currently keeping their base, constituent voters, under control to work for the haves in totalitarian societies, and in a democracy to work, pay taxes, which is also known as tribute, to the kings and queens, to the haves, or receive welfare, and receive the basic necessities of life. And thus the leftist haves will naturally control the unions, because the unions are made up of workers that are all approximately the same in the degree of knowledge under which they operate. That is, they are uniform in the amount of knowledge they possess in order to do their jobs. Differentiation of product and services of no concern to the unions. In the union situation, they work to make everybody equal and make everybody of equal knowledge, suppressing the law of differentiation, which causes new products and services to be produced. Otherwise, they will leave the plantation. And so as society prospers through the increase of knowledge, and in a democracy, assuming that elections are fair, the left loses voters and will actually become a minority party. And it loses voters because its voters are becoming prosperous, going from the have-nots to the nouveau riche segment of society, and not needing the Democratic Party anymore. And the haves know this. The progressives know this. The Democrats know this. Given the chance, they always try to cheat at elections. And if they get full control of the government, they never give it up. And thus elections become unfair, and elections become controlled. And how do we know this? We know this empirically from history. Wherever the left gets a hold of a nation, they get a hold of the ballot box also. Look at Nazi Germany. That was a leftist society. That was the Socialist Society of Germany. Look at Pol Pot, the ultimate leftist. Look at Mao. Look at Stalin. Look at the fascist Italy under Mussolini, and the list goes on. Recently, you can look at Venezuela. Look how they corrupted their ballot box. Look at the Communist China Party and their false elections. But one could say that the right would do the same thing in controlling the ballot box, but it does not. If it did, the founding of this country, with its constitution and amendments, would have been impossible. But it was possible, because the have-nots believe that basically people are good and all should be treated equally before the law. And thanks very much. And if you have any questions or concern about this video, give us an email at contact@thephilosophicalAngle.com. Thank you.